This is Dave Wirt with your Ag Market News Report, weekly summer ending August the 31st. Cattle this week we had 3,157 head compared to 3,605 last week and 4,378 a year ago. Compared to last week's market, slaughter steers sold $1 to $2 higher, Holsteins were steady to $1 higher, and heifers sold $1 to $2 higher. Cows were steady to $1 lower, and bulls were $2 to $3 higher. Steers this week, high choice and prime were $120.50 to $123.50. Choice was $115.50 to $119.50. Selects were $110 to $113.50. Holstein steers high choice and prime were $103 to $107. Choice was $98 to $102. Selects were $95.50 to $98.50. Heifers high choice and prime $118.25 to $119.75. Choice was $112.50 to $115.50. Selects were running $105 to $110. Cows breakers were $73.75 to $78. Boners $70 to $74, and lean was $65.25 to $69.75. We've seen prices going down as the week went on. Started out early in the week with prices a little bit higher, and as the week went down, it just progressively got lower throughout the week. Bulls high dressing were $104.50 to $111.50. Average dress was $97.25 to $103, and low dressing were $85 to $92. Feeder cattle, compared to last week, they were about steady to 5 lower, but it was a pretty light run this week in Pennsylvania. Medium large frame 130 to 500 pounds or 125 to 137. 5 to 700 pounds or 115 to 120. Heifers number ones 3 to 500 pounds, 124 to 130.50. 5 to 700 pounds averaged about 117 to 119. And bulls 3 to 500 pounds number ones are 121 to 126.50. 5 to 700 pounds are 122 to 130. Calves this week there was 2,647 head compared to 2,975 last week, 3,050 a year ago. Compared to last week, Holstein bull calves were about $10 to $20 lower. Heifers were about $10 to $15 lower. And again, pretty well the same thing with calves as with cows. As the week went on, the prices continued to go down. Number one Holstein bull calves, 95 to 120 pounds were $1 to $115. 80 to 90 pounders were 70 to 90s. Number twos, 95 to 120 pounds was 85 to 95, and the lighter calves were about 60 to 85. And number threes this week were running 55 to 70 cents. Holstein heifers, they were also lower this week. They were 115 to 125s for number ones, and number twos were about 70 to $1. Hogs this week, there was 1,731 compared to 1,276 last week and 1,824 a year ago. Compared to last week, barrels and gilts were about $5 to $6 lower this week. Sows were steady. Barrels and gilts 49 to 54% lean were about 61 to 63.50. 45 to 49% lean were 58 to 60 cents. Sows 3 to 500 pounds were 39 to 43.50, and heavier sows were running about 43.50 to 46. Lambs and sheep, there was lighter run this week. There's 1,256 compared to 2,638 last week and 1,930 a year ago. Slaughter lambs sold $15 to $20 lower, and sheep were about $5 to $10 higher. Choice lambs 40 to 60 pounders were 114 to 118. 60 to 80 pounders were 104 to 118, and 80 to 110 pounds were 86 to 110. Good use 120 to 160 to 200 pounders were about 68 to 78. Utilities were running about 58 to 62. And goats this week there was 1,940 compared to 2,478 last week and 2,890 a year ago. And compared to last week, goats were about $5 to $15 lower. Goats are sold by the head with weights estimated. Selection 1 kids 60 to 80 pounders were $94 to $104. 80 to 100 pounders were $104 to $132. 100 to 120 pounders were $110 to $130. Selection 2's 40 to 60 pounders were $60 to $74. 60 to 80 pounders were $80 to $84. 80 to 100 pounders were $70 to $104. And selection 3 kids 40 to 60 pounders were $40 to $52. 60 to 80 pounders were $48 to $56. Selection 1 nannies 80 to 130 pounders were $100 to $120. 130 to 180 pounders were $130 to $140. Selection 2's 80 to 130 pounders were $74 to $110. Selection 3's 50 to 80 pounders were $56 to $66. 80 to 130 pounders were $58 to $92. Selection 1 billies 100 to 150 pounders were $150 to $198. 150 to 250 pounders were $180 to $247. Selection 2's 100 to 150 pounders were $145 to $167. Selection 3's 100 to 150 pounders were $110 to $137. Selection 1 weathers 100 to 150 pounders were $140 to $174. and 150 to 200 pounders were $210 to $242. This is Dave Wirt for Ag Market News. Have a good week.